it's 8 o'clock and we can start. Today, Pallavi is not there because she is traveling. She won't be there today and also on Saturday. So,
Okay, shall I read? Shall I
yes,
read?
Yasmin, please go ahead.
For there is yet a third intensely close and personal aspect of the Master of Works, which is a key to his sublimest hidden mystery and ecstasy. For he detaches from the secret of the hidden transcendence and the ambiguous display of the cosmic movement and individual power of the divine, then can mediate between the two and bridge our passage from the one to the other. In this aspect, the transcendent and the universal person of the divine conforms itself to our individualized personality and accepts a personal relation with us, at once identified with us as our supreme self, and yet close and different as our masters, friend, lover, teacher, our father and our mother, our playmate, in the great world game, who has disguised himself throughout as friend and enemy, helper and opponent, and in all relations and in all workings that affect us, has led our steps towards our perfection and our release. It is through this more personal manifestation that we are admitted to some possibility of the complete transcendental experience. For in him we meet the one not merely in a liberalized calm and peace, not merely with a wide passive or active submission in our works, or through the mystery of union with a universal knowledge and power, filling and guiding us, but with an ecstasy of divine love and divine delight that shows up beyond silent witness and active world power to some positive divination of a great beatific secret. For it is not so much knowledge leading to some ineffable absolute, not so much works lifting us beyond world process to the organizing supreme knower and master, but rather this thing most intimate to us, yet at present most obscure, which keeps for us wrapped in its passionate veil, the deep and rapturous secret of the transcendental Godhead and some absolute positiveness of its perfect being. It's all concentrating bliss. It's mystic Ananda.
Okay. So, quite a big para. We'll have a look at what he's saying. Okay. And he's saying something interesting. He's talking about the personal aspect of the divine. So, I start reading the sentences. So, there is yet, for there is yet a third intensely close and personal aspect of the Master of Works, which is the key to his sublimest hidden mystery and ecstasy. So, what is he referring to? First of all, you must remember that the divine takes three poises: transcendental, cosmic, and individual. He can appear to be outside the universe, transcendental. Okay, that is usually he is outside the universe. That is number one. Then he is in the universe. When you see him everywhere and everything, or you feel his presence everywhere, that's a cosmic. And if you feel him inside yourself, that's the individual. So he can take these three poises. But now Sringa is saying, for there is yet a third intensely close and personal aspect. So that third one, the first and second, he is referring to the level 1 and the level 2. Okay, the transcendental and the cosmic. He is referring to them. But he goes on now. The third one is the personal aspect of the divine. Okay, you can feel the divine personally guiding you and being your friend. So that's what he's referring to. Okay, so we are situated in the para. What he is going to talk about the personal relations with the divine. Okay, so for there is yet a third intensely close and personal aspect of the Master of Works, which is a key to his sublimest hidden mystery and ecstasy. So in this personal aspect of the divine, usually there is aspect of intimacy. You feel yourself to be intimate with the divine, and a sweetness and an ecstasy can come. Sweetness can definitely be there in intimacy, but it can also lead to ecstasy. The Ananda aspect becomes very clear in the personal aspect of the divine. In the impersonal aspect of the divine, in the transcendental as well as the cosmic, you are at peace. You are in sense of freedom, infinity, but not necessarily ecstasy. Okay? Ananda may not be there. You may get a little touch of Ananda, but it's not the sublimest hidden mystery. Okay? I read the next phrase. For he detaches from the secret of the hidden transcendence and the ambiguous display of the cosmic movement, an individual power of the divine that can mediate between the two and bridge our passage from the one to the other. So what's he saying? He's using very interesting language. He's saying that in the transcendental, it is the impersonal aspect. And also in the cosmic aspect also, there is the impersonal aspect. But from these two, he extracts, okay? He detaches from the secret of the hidden transcendence and the ambiguous display of the cosmic movement an individual power. So, when you make your mind silent and go to the self, you see Nirguna Brahman, the featureless Brahman. Okay? It is not the personal aspect of Lord. It is a featureless Brahman, not the Saguna. Okay? Then, when you go to the transcendental also, the personal aspect may not be there at all. So he is talking of the at your level, at the lower level, the individual aspect. Okay, you can have a personal relation with the divine. Okay? That is why he is saying from the transcendental and the cosmic, he detaches, sort of extracts, and gives himself a form to the sadhaka, and the sadhaka sees the form and experiences the personal aspect of the divine. Okay, then he can become a friend, a lover. Okay, but he can also be the opposite. Okay, that we'll come to later on in the paragraph. Okay? And can mediate between the two and bridge our passage from the one to the other. So what is the bridge? To be built from level 2 of the self to the level 3 of the transcendent. That is the personal aspect of the divine. Okay. If you don't have the personal aspect of the divine, the cosmic and the transcendental can be impersonal. No person. Only you have peace, knowledge, but you may not have ananda. You may not have ecstasy. The relation with the divine cannot be established. How will you establish a relation with the infinite? It's only when the finite is there you can establish a relationship. Okay, so in this aspect, the transcendent and universal person of the divine conforms itself to our individualized personality and accepts a personal relation with us. Very, very clear. The transcendent and the universal are both impersonal aspects. So from there, the divine makes himself available to the individual, conforms itself to our individualized personality, and accepts a personal relation with us. Okay? So you experience it. At our level, in our case, we may experience a nearness to Mother or Sri. Someone who is a Krishna Bhakta will experience the nearness to Krishna. If you are a Christian, you will experience a nearness to Christ, etc., etc., etc. Okay, just like that. Whatever you are used to, the divine will conform himself. He will make himself proportionate to your idea of the divine. That's what he's saying. Okay? And he accepts a personal relation with us, at once identified with us as our Supreme Self, and yet close and different as our Master, friend, lover, teacher, our father, our mother, our playmate. Because when ecstasy is there, it's like a play. Our playmate in the great world game, okay, who has disguised himself throughout as friend and enemy. So why is Sri saying enemy? Because in the beginning, the world is presenting to you pleasant and unpleasant things. So when it is pleasant, he has disguised himself as a friend. And when you have unpleasant experiences, it's the divine who is disguising himself as the enemy. But it's the divine himself who is giving you both, pleasant and unpleasant. Pleasant is okay, unpleasant can be a very good reason for progress. Okay? When you experience the unpleasant, it can be a goal, it can be a impulse to you to realize good beyond the difficulty. That's why. Who has disguised himself throughout as friend and enemy, helper and opponent, and in all relations and in all workings that affect us, has led our steps towards our perfection and our release. So it says very clearly that when you get the experience of the divine, you see that all that was unpleasant and obstacles, they were actually very, very necessary for your growth. Okay? At that time, you realize that. And then Sri Aurobindo uses the word justification. He says all those troubles were justified because they were helpful in your progress upwards. Okay?
One question.
Yes, Sarika, I can't hear you clearly.
One question.
Tell me.
When it is unpleasant, we say that it is our karma. We don't think that it is God who is giving us like that. No?
And no, that is true. But that also is a help. All unpleasant things also are a help. It is true that your past actions, okay, you are undergoing the karma. That is true. That's another way of looking at things. Both are right. There is no contradiction between them.
No, you say that we get the divine gives both. The divine gives both.
The divine
gives both good
yes,
and bad.
that's right. That's right.
But then why we blame our karma?
That is part of the thing. That's a process. The process. That is part of the process. It is through karma that he gives you pleasant and unpleasant. There's no contradiction.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll have to think about it a little bit. See, when someone is giving you pleasant or unpleasant, there's a process, na?
Yeah.
There's a process. Karma is the process. It's a law. By that, then it is given. It's not a contradiction. Okay. So, I go to the next sentence. It is through this more personal manifestation that we are admitted to some possibility of the complete transcendental experience. Now, he has used the word complete transcendental. In other words, what his meaning is, there is the individual aspect, there is the cosmic aspect, the divine seen in the cosmos, and the divine seen outside the cosmos, the transcendental. But beyond all this, the personal aspect of the divine is, you can say in a way, transcendental, but complete. It becomes complete only when you have the experience of the personal aspect of the divine. And this is the Ananda plane. And then there is intense Ananda, okay, ecstasy. That is the perfection. The perfect perfection comes with Ananda, not before that. Okay? So, complete transcendental experience. For in him, we meet the one, not merely in a liberated calm and peace. So, the one merely in a liberated calm and peace is level 2 of the spiritual planes of consciousness. Okay? Only liberated calm and peace, but not necessarily Ananda. So, there is a explaining, not merely with a passive or active submission of our works or through the mystery of union with a universal knowledge and power, filling and guiding us, but with an ecstasy of divine love and divine delight. In other words, the Ananda plane is beyond the Saguna and the Nirguna. It's beyond the personal and the impersonal. And when you go to the Ananda plane, is an absolute peak, okay, of the combination of personal and impersonal. Saguna and Nirguna are normally experienced separately. But in the Saguna aspect is also, it can be the cosmic. You are seeing the divine with qualities. Okay, so that is the cosmic. And the Nirguna is the self, where you are experiencing only peace and calm, but not necessarily Ananda. Even if you get Ananda, it is just a small bit, it's not too much. But this personal aspect of the divine, the Ananda plane, you get absolutely the perfection. Perfect perfectionist of the universe. Okay, so that, he says, is the absolute peak of realization of the divine. So, and he is using I'm explaining the phrases that he has used. The mystery of union with a universal knowledge and power feeling, that could be the dynamic aspect of the divine, okay? But with an ecstasy of divine love and divine delight, okay? Divine love and divine delight, the Ananda plane, that shoots up beyond silent witness and active world power. Beyond silent witness, the self, level 2 of the spiritual planes of consciousness, and active world power to some positive divination of a greater beatific secret. The word divination means a vague idea, okay? But positive divination of a greater beatific secret. There is something beyond the silent witness and also beyond the active world power. The active world power, you can, the Saguna Brahman, it can be beyond that also. There is a level of Ananda which is even higher than all these things. In fact, Ananda is supposed to be, in one place he says, that even beyond the supermind. Definitely it's in the supermind, but also beyond. You can experience it, and then you will have the perfect perfection. For it is not so much knowledge leading to some ineffable absolute, not so much works lifting us beyond world process to an original supreme knower and master, but rather this thing most intimate to us, yet at present most obscure, which keeps for us wrapped in its passionate veil the deep and rapturous secret of the transcendent Godhead and some absolute positiveness of its perfect being, its all-concentrating bliss, its mystic Ananda. I'll read that last sentence and we identify the phrases. For it is not so much knowledge leading to some ineffable absolute. This is level 2 of the spiritual planes of consciousness, the self. Okay? Not so much works, karma yoga. The other one, not so much knowledge, is the jnana yoga part. Not so much karma yoga, not so much works lifting us beyond, is the karma yoga. Beyond world process is the originating supreme knower and master. But rather, this supreme knower and master is a supramental. Okay? But rather this thing most intimate to us, yet at present most obscure, which keeps for us wrapped in its passionate veil the deep and rapturous secret of the transcendent Godhead and some absolute positiveness of its perfect being, its all-concentrating bliss, its mystic Ananda. So, the supramental is definitely the highest of the three. Okay? But this mystic Ananda, sometimes he has a chapter in the synthesis only, Gnosis and Ananda. Okay? Ananda seems to be the absolute, even in a sense, superior to the Gnostic. Gnostic is the supramental. Okay? So he is giving the highest value to Ananda plane. And that's why he's saying it is mystery and perfect being and all concentrating bliss. The bliss can be there, but in the Ananda plane, it is absolutely different. We go to the next one. But the individual relation with the divine. So who will read? Smita, Kiran, you can read, yeah. Go ahead,
Okay,
you can
Rana.
read. But the individual relation.
But the individual relation with the divine does not always or from the beginning
Sorry,
bring into
Dada.
force.
Sorry,
Ah,
Dada. I have just a question. I have just a question, Dada.
ah,
In the last line,
ah.
what we have read that this, but rather this thing most intimate to us. This thing most intimate to us, yet at present, most obscure. So this means that this thing is our psychic being, that.
In other words, you can feel the presence of a divine impersonally. So you feel that the divine is very near, but you don't see the form, the personal aspect. Okay, it can definitely happen. When you go into the meditation hall, you can sometimes feel that there is a divine presence there. So it's intimate to us, but yet it is obscure because you're not seeing the clear form of the divine. You're not seeing the mother as she was. I'm only explaining the mother, but it can be anything. Okay? It can be any other form of the body. So intimate to us
Thank you,
means
Dada.
you may feel, yes, very clearly you can feel its presence, but not the form.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you, Dada. Thank
Yeah.
you, Dada. Okay.
Kiran, go ahead.
Yes, Radha. But the individual relation with the divine does not always or from the beginning bring into force a widest enlargement or a highest self exceeding. At first, this Godhead, close to our being or immanent within us, can be felt fully or in the scope of our personal nature and experience. A leader and master, a guide and teacher, a friend and lover, or else a spirit, power or presence, constituting and uplifting our upward and enlarging movement by the force of this intimate reality, inhabiting the heart or presiding over our nature from above even our highest intelligence. It is our personal evolution that is his preoccupation, a personal relation with him that is our joy and fulfillment. The building of our nature into His divine image, that is, our self finding and perfection. The outside world seems to exist only as a field for this growth and a provider of materials or of helping and opposing forces for its successive stages. Our works done in that world are His works, but even when they serve some temporary universal end, their main purpose for us is to make outwardly dynamic or give inward power to our relations with this immanent divine. Many seekers ask for no more or see the continuation and fulfillment of this spiritual flowering only in heavens beyond. The union is consummated and made perpetual in an eternal dwelling place of His perfection, joy, and beauty. But this is not enough for the integral seeker, however intense and beautiful. A personal isolated achievement cannot be his sole aim or his entire experience. A time must come when the personal opens out into the universal. Our very individuality, spiritual, mental, vital, physical even, becomes universalized. It is seen as a power of this universal force and cosmic spirit, or else it contains the universe in that ineffable wideness which comes to the individual consciousness when it breaks its bonds and flows upward towards the transcendent on every side into the infinite.
Okay. So he is explaining further what we discussed. And Shima's question, that also he has explained here more clearly. Okay. So we'll have a look at that. But the individual relation with the divine does not always or from the beginning bring into force a widest enlargement or a highest self-exceeding. You can have a relation with the divine. You can have, through Bhakti Yoga, definitely you can have a relation with the divine. But it doesn't take you to the highest level that he is speaking about. The Ananda plane, that it doesn't need not, the Bhakti Yoga need not end in the Ananda plane. That's what he mentioned. Okay? Even at our normal level here, a Bhakta, okay, one who has got Bhakti, feels the divine presence. He may even see the form of the divine, but it's not the highest level. The highest level is something totally different. That's exactly what he's explaining to us. Okay? He's using widest enlargement and highest self-exceeding is not necessarily the path of the Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga, you can have a wonderful relationship. Ecstasy can be there, but it's not the highest. Okay? So he will explain why. Because power has to be there for doing things in the physical world. That power may not be there. Okay? At first, this Godhead close to our being or immanent within us. Immanent means I feel his presence within me. Okay? Immanent. The individual aspect of the divine can be felt fully only in the scope of our personal nature and experience. In other words, whatever you are capable of, whatever your limitations, according to your limitations, you will feel his presence. Okay? That's what Sri is saying. At first, this Godhead, close to our being or immanent within us, can be felt fully only in the scope of our personal nature. In other words, it cannot be full. Okay? The language is a little complex, but you see, it cannot be felt fully only in the scope of our personal nature and experience. Our personal nature is limited, therefore our relation with the divine also will be limited. Okay? And that experience can be of a leader and master, a guide and teacher, a friend and lover, or else a spirit, power or presence constituting and uplifting our upward and enlarging movement. So this was what Sima asked, and this is the answer that he's giving you. You can see the form, okay, guide and teacher, friend and lover, or you may not see the form, but you may feel a spirit or a power or a presence. There is a difference between the two. When you can feel the presence of a guide or a teacher or a friend or a lover, or else a spirit, power or presence, constituting and uplifting our upward and enlarging movement by the force of his intimate reality, inhabiting the heart or presiding over our nature from above, even our highest intelligence. In other words, you must realize that there is a gradation. All experiences have gradations. Okay? There can be ecstasy, but there can be more ecstasy, and there can be the most ecstasy. So you may feel the divine presence, but you may not also see him in a form. Okay? And even if you see him in a form, it may not be the highest. The highest is that when the Ananda plane is reached. That's what Sri is explaining. Okay? It is our personal evolution that is his preoccupation. Personal evolution. This is what Sri is explaining, that for the integral yoga, personal evolution is not enough. After he gets his personal evolution, he must also do work for the divine in the world. That's the whole idea of this paragraph. Okay? It is our personal evolution that is his preoccupation, a personal relation with him, that is our joy and fulfillment, the building of our nature into his divine image, that is our self-finding and perfection. The outside world, there now he is stressing, he is explaining to you. The outside world seems to exist only as a field for his growth and provider of materials or of helping and opposing forces for his successive stages. The world outside remains what it is to you. Okay? It does not change your view of the world. You are not seeing the divine as there, and you have to participate in his work in the world. That is the integral part. But the one when he is only raising you Personally, okay, that is the normal path for all yogas. But for integral yoga, you have to become in your consciousness the divine and help in the divine work in the physical world. That doesn't normally happen in the other yogas. They are satisfied only with the personal achievement. That's what they will tell you also. You will see now. The outside world seems to exist only, you note that, as a field for this growth and provider of materials, or of helping and opposing forces for its successive stages. Our works done in that world are his works. But even when they serve some temporary universal end, their main purpose for us is to make outwardly dynamic or give inward power to our relations with the immanent divine. Now he wants to go beyond that. He's saying many seekers ask for no more or see the continuation and fulfillment of the spiritual flowering only in heavens beyond. Okay? So they are very, very satisfied with the personal achievement. The union is consummated and made perpetual in an eternal dwelling place of his perfection, joy and beauty. This is the all the heavens that are there. There are many, many. There Ananda Loka, Brahma Loka, okay, Vijnana Loka. So the individual goes to those planes and lives happily with the divine in those planes. But this is exactly what Srindu says. I have to go beyond that. Okay. Now you see, but this is not enough for the interior seeker. However intense and beautiful, a personal isolated achievement cannot be soul in or his entire experience. Personal achievement and a relation with the divine is not enough if you are a follower of Sri Aurobindo. You must get the divine consciousness and come down to the physical world. The physical world should not be only a drama. It should be a place where you have to bring down the divine. Okay? It should not be a stage for a drama. Okay? A time must come when the person opens out into the universal. So your individual personal relation with the divine must become common to everybody. Everybody must have had that. So our very individuality, spiritual, mental, vital, physical even, becomes universalized. There you are. Even he's saying your individuality also becomes universalized. Even the physical becomes universalized. So I gave you an example of universal becoming individualized. You remember? The yogi who is seeing a bullock being whipped. Okay? So the whip marks come on his back. Okay? That's the physical, universal consciousness in the physical. Okay? In the vital, you may feel the suffering of others. You must become universalized. That's what should be mentioned. Cosmic consciousness. It is seen as a power of his universal force and cosmic spirit, or else it contains the universe in the ineffable wideness which comes to the individual consciousness when it breaks its bonds and flows upward towards the transcendent and on every side of into the infinite. So, individual relation with the divine is wonderful, no doubt, but it's not enough for the interior yoga. That's what you mentioned. So, we have got 4 minutes more. We can maybe read the next para. How big is it? It's a very small para. We can read it. So, one of you has to read.
Should I read?
Yeah, Suki, go ahead, read it. In a yoga, lived entirely.
Inner yoga lived entirely on the spiritualized mental plane. It is possible and even usual for these three fundamental aspects of the divine, the individual or immanent, the cosmic, and the transcendent, to stand out as separate realizations. Each by itself, then, appears sufficient to satisfy the yearning of the seeker. Alone with the personal divine, in the inner heart's illumined secret chamber, he can build his being into the beloved image and ascend out of a fallen nature to dwell with him in some heaven of the spirit. Absolved in the cosmic wideness, released from ego, his personality reduced to a point of working of a universal force, himself calm, liberated, deathless, deathless in universality, motionless in the witness self, even while outspread without limit in unending space and time. He can enjoy in the world the freedom of the timeless. One pointed toward some ineffable transcendence, casting away his personality, shedding from him the labor and trouble of the universal dynamism, he can escape into the inexpressible nirvana, annul all things in an intolerant exaltation of a flight into the incommunicable.
Yeah. What Sridhar is saying is that the three aspects of the divine, the personal aspect of the divine, you feel the divine within yourself. The cosmic aspect of the divine, you see a divine presence in everything in the universe. Trees, birds, okay, even stones, we feel his presence. Then there is one which is the transcendental, that is outside the universe. You feel that you are outside the universe. These are usually experienced separately, one of them. But in Srimana's yoga, he says that all the three must combine simultaneously. You must have the experience of the transcendent, the cosmic, and the individual together at one time, not one by one. Okay? That is what Srimana is saying. Okay? So we stop here today, and next time, next Tuesday, but none of these achievements is enough for the integral yoga. He will tell you that all the three have to be experienced simultaneously. Okay? So we stop today. It's 8:39. None of these achievements. Okay?
Thank you.
Au revoir, everybody. Have a nice day.